Hi everyone, I'm Courtney. Well, first of all, sorry about my voice, I'm a little sick, but my project this semester was on the importance of records, and not just keeping records, but I wanted to understand a little bit more about um, why Mormon chose to omit and chose to include certain records, and what he was trying to tell us with these choices. Um, so my project was a book of my own family's records that I compiled. So I went and spoke to my immediate family, my brothers and my sisters, my in-laws, and my parents, and I requested for them to each submit about 2 or 3 stories. Um, and these, in reality, what stories I got were exactly what I had asked them. I had asked for instances when we had seen the Lord's hand in our family, or special memories that we had had because of the Lord's influence. But the stories are sometimes they cover that, sometimes they cover more just familiar memories, and that's all right too. But so I compiled this book of stories based on what my family provided for me. So, like you can see, my mom gave me stories, my sister, my brother, um, and I tried to organize them in a more succinct fashion so that we could go through afterwards and have this book of records that contains things from our own family. That's my family at the end, and the importance of records that in Jacob 4 it talks a little bit about that and has a great scripture about how we rejoice in these records and that we are thankful for them because we learn lessons from the people that have come before us, and we wouldn't have that unless we had these records. And I included a little bit about my know, understand, believe, change at the end, just a little bit of a synopsis. But that's because my project started out more of a know, right? So I wanted to know a lot of things. I wanted to know to what magnitude Mormon was directing us to Christ and his covenant path during this time. And I came to know that because of how I studied my scriptures, right? So I looked for every instance that the Lord would mention something about, how he had promised these things, or he had exhorted people to record them, or when characters in the scriptures like Nephi, Laman, and Lemuel had sacrificed to obtain these records. So that was all really important, and I wanted to see, how often that really was mentioned, and it was mentioned a lot. So many instances, the Lord, well, through his prophets, he praises these records that we have. And so that helped me to understand, on a more spiritual level, how close the Lord is to our lives, and how much he doesn't want us to record these things for him. He wants us to record them so that we have a tangible proof of how real and close he is, and how he knows our families. And that's what I came to know during my own project, is that, ever since my siblings and my parents and my grandparents that I talked to, and my great-great-grandparents. Oh, I also, for the project, it's not included in this record book, but I accessed my great-grandparents and great-great-parents' patriarchal blessings on LDS.org, and that was amazing to study and to see how prophecies had literally been fulfilled that the Lord had prophesied years and years ago. That kind of led me to the belief portion, because I studied in depth my grandmother's patriarchal blessing, who passed away about 2 years ago. So she was the one I knew the best. And I studied her patriarchal blessing, and then in conjunction with my own, because I noticed that so many things that were talked about, or ideas that were presented, were also similar in her own. So I got to see, how the Lord really knew her, and trials and things that were going on in her life were prophesied and she was warned about. And then specific prophecies, like you can see here, were fulfilled. It talks about one where she will know sorrow, but that she will find responsiveness in the hearts of those that she loves through the gospel. And she had a really hard family life, and her daughter was very far away from the church, and so was her husband. So that, really rang true to me in that fact. And so that led me to the believe aspect of how this was a tangible proof that I couldn't deny that God knew my family, God knows my family, and He is close to us, and He wants us to stay on this path. And so, because I knew and understood and believed, that led me to the change. And now I study my scriptures in a way that's a lot more intentional. And the way I record stories is different because it's not just for myself, but I realize that I want my posterity to be able to look back on that and have a proof and to know to what source to look for a remission of their sins, right? I want them to know that I knew that Jesus was the Christ, that He was the source of joy and peace, and that they can look to that as well. So this was my project. I really enjoyed it, and it made me see not only the importance of records, like keeping my own record, but how many instances the Lord shows His hand, and time after time He has given us records to be able to see that He is real, He is with us, and He wants us to follow Him.